This week,
we're gonna get justice.
A 4-year-old boy was killed in a hit-and-run in Brooklyn, and a couple is sentenced after a child's overdose death in their daycare, plus a recent rash of robberies involving luxury coats. Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. For our first story this week, we begin in Brownsville, Brooklyn, where a 4-year-old boy is dead after being hit by a car. The vehicle left the scene after the collision took place, all according to police.
The 4-year-old boy who was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver in Brooklyn yesterday has been identified, and now his mother is speaking out. Fox 5's Michelle Ross is near that scene and has more on what she is saying today. Michelle.
Bianca, it is so painful to lose a child, and what makes this cut even deeper for this mother is that she says her 4-year-old is now her second child that she will have to bury in 1 year. 4-year-old Zachariah is currently her latest child that she will have to bury, and she has 3 sons, and her 21-year-old, she says, was killed a year ago. He is seen here holding Zachariah, who was killed after a hit-and-run crash in Brownsville yesterday. Zachariah was 4 years old, and his mother says they were walking back home after getting his vaccine papers to go back to school. Police say they responded to a 911 call of a report of a car crash around Linden Boulevard and Rockaway Parkway around 11:10 in the morning. When they got here, they saw the car was a white SUV, and after the crash, the driver fled the scene. Zachariah was taken to Brookdale Hospital Center, which is right near where the scene is, where he was pronounced dead.
Now I'm hurt. Not only did he hit my son, he hit him. I banged his car, he ran over him. And then they ain't telling the whole story. Then I got hit. So if y'all want to let the record reflect, we gonna get justice. Cause love will win before hate. How do you run over a child?
And again, the scene is by Brookdale Hospital right behind us where he was pronounced dead. This area known to have many crashes, known to be dangerous for pedestrians and also cars. The traffic gathering data site NYC Crash Mapper has confirmed that there were 31 crashes that took place here. Again, the car, a white SUV, and police are still looking for the driver.
We now head to the Kingsbridge Heights section of the Bronx. That's where a 22-month-old died at a daycare after ingesting fentanyl. The couple in charge of that daycare have now been sentenced to 25 years to life in prison.
This was one of those stories that absolutely shocked the city. We're talking about a married couple, a young married couple. They were running a daycare, a licensed daycare out of an apartment in the building right here behind me in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx. They were also running a drug operation, and they had fentanyl and heroin, and it was underneath a trap door under the floor. And this is the same area where these little children, babies, were playing and where they were sleeping. Go ahead, take a look at this. This is the poor little boy that lost his life. Little Nicholas Dominici. He was about to turn 2 years old when he died from being exposed to the fentanyl back in 2023. 3 other children at the daycare center between the ages of 8 months and 2 years old were also exposed but survived. 38-year-old Gray Mendez and 37-year-old Felix Herrera Garcia, which is her husband, are currently serving 45-year sentences in federal prison in this case. And today they were sentenced to 25 years to life in their state case. Well, Nicholas's mother addressed the court in Spanish before the sentencing. Her heart, as you can imagine, is absolutely broken, saying that her life will never be the same.
I can't sleep well since that day. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. I see Nicholas at his hospital bed.
Veo a Nicolás con sangre de la boca, de todo lo que intentaron los doctores para traerlo a la vida, pero era demasiado tiempo que tenía ya mi hijo muerto.
I see Nicholas bleeding from his mouth, with blood on his mouth, from everything doctors tried to bring him back to life, but it was too late already by then.
And also in court today, the convicted drug dealer, Felix Garcia, he spoke in court, also in Spanish, and he said that he felt sorry, that he was sorry for what had happened, and he apologized to the parents. And he said he also hoped that at some point they will be able to forgive him and his wife for what happened.
Down in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, a new type of crime spree is unfolding. This time, instead of jewelry or purses, robbery suspects are going after luxury winter coats.
We're here on Bay Parkway. This is the scene of two recent incidents. These luxury coats are making young individuals targets, and they're very easy to spot, which makes the young individuals easy prey. Let's show you some video here. There's some young men who are wearing the jackets on the right side of this photo, and you see on the left side there, members of the NYPD have been out letting people wearing these jackets know that these jackets are making them targets. We checked the company's website, and moose knuckle jackets run over $1,500 a piece. They're less expensive for the variety for kids, but they are still about $700 each. Now, in multiple cases, robbers have wielded weapons, including knives and even machetes, and they've gone around in packs, ripping off victims in both Brooklyn here and as also in Queens. Sometimes they take their victims' shoes as well. You can imagine in this weather what that means for the victim. Now, last month, as an example, a 15-year-old was surrounded on a subway platform that was in Jackson Heights, Queens, by 5 suspects who robbed him. Yesterday, police announced in a separate case the arrest of one of the suspects in this type of crime, and they identify him as 19-year-old Josue Montes from Amityville on Long Island. Now, tonight, the NYPD has released details of other moose knuckle robbery or robbery attempts, including the one here. The one here involved 2 suspects brandishing a knife and saying, quote, "Give me your moose knuckle or I will slash your face." The victim in this latest case out here is 14 years old. We talked to some people out here. They know the jackets are expensive, and they tell us they can't exactly say they are surprised by what's happening.
Because they're like really comfortable and thick, and it's a brand because of their logo.
Are they expensive?
Yes.
I don't think that should be happening, and I think we should do something about it.
Well, it's not surprising, especially in this generation, you know. A moose knuckle jacket, that's a lot of money, you know.
It's better than getting electronics, right? Nothing to unlock. It's cash ready. You bring it somewhere, you know, it's easy to give up to somebody and you get cash right away.
That former NYPD detective also saying because these jackets are so distinct that if you are walking around with them, know that you're easy to spot and know that the suspects have come in numbers, so that you should try to go home not alone, but also in numbers. And they say also pay attention to your surroundings. If you feel like you're being followed, do not hesitate to go into a store or business and ask for help.
Up on the Upper East Side, we reported that transit safety advocates are pushing for a crackdown on reckless drivers. This comes after a newly released report is shining a spotlight on New York City's top 10 super speeders.
Sometimes I get road rage here in the city. It's very easy to get frustrated, but definitely not a super speeder. It's hard to be, especially at the intersection where we're set up right now along 3rd Avenue, because the lights are sort of stalled. They're staggered, I should say. So it's hard for cars to just blow right through those reds. And right above my shoulder, there is a speed camera. However, the cameras are not doing enough, advocates say, to deter these kinds of drivers, and people want them off the streets. More than 2.5 million New Yorkers live within 5 minutes of an intersection that the top 10 super speeders in the city have been caught blasting through. In simpler terms, these reckless drivers are covering a lot of ground and not in a good way. According to new data from Transportation Alternatives and Families for Safe Streets, the top 10 super speeders were caught by the city's school zone speed cameras an average of 179 times each last year alone. And listen to this, the number 1 offender, an Audi A6 purchased in mid-2023. We don't know that person's identity, but we know they received 259 tickets, all happening in Brooklyn, and that person paid off more than $60,000 in fines. But police, again, and hefty fines, as I mentioned, aren't deterring them. 4 others have paid fines ranging from around $10,000 to $20,000 each, while the 5 remaining offenders owe a combined total of $97,000. Alexa Sledge with Transportation Alternatives says super speeders typically terrorize the same intersections over and over again.
No matter where you live, where you work, where you go to school, where your doctor's office is, to get there, you're putting yourself or your family in danger of crossing one of these intersections where these repeat super speeders are getting tickets time and time and time again, and nothing's happening to them.
Advocates are trying to get the Stop Super Speeding bill passed in this legislative session. It was first proposed by Democratic State Senator Andrew Gennard in early 2025. The legislation would require drivers with 16 or more speeding tickets in a single year to have this system installed on their car. The device relies on GPS, and it is pre-programmed to know the speed limit on every single roadway. Governor Hochul, in the meantime, introduced a similar pilot program in her State of the State address, which would have to be passed by the April 1st budget deadline. Now, we know that the speed cameras, police are not deterring these drivers, so the question remains, will some kind of device or system implemented in your car do the trick?
We now leave the city for Long Island, where prosecutors in Suffolk County say they busted the crew behind a series of armed robberies.
That's right. Over the span of 17 days last summer, prosecutors say an organized robbery crew pulled off a series of crimes in Suffolk County, across New York State, and even in Florida. Authorities tell us this ring was centered in Suffolk County and responsible for a wave of violent and calculated thefts. This investigation began in August when members of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office started looking into several related armed robberies in Deer Park and Bay Shore. Now here you are seeing surveillance video footage of break-ins at auto shops and car dealerships. Court documents outline a coordinated plan to target auto shops late at night. According to investigators, crew members carried weapons in case they ran into anybody inside. Once they were in the shops, authorities say they stole cash, checks, and license plates, and if they were able to get their hands on keys, they drove off with the vehicles from inside the auto body businesses. Investigators say the crimes did not stop there. They also allegedly carried out carjackings and armed robberies, including a robbery at gunpoint at a home in Bay Shore. They allegedly used those stolen cars and license plates to try to avoid police detection and keep the crime spree going. Prosecutors also say the stolen checks and plates were sold.
The indictment charges Savion Jones, Lenny Cruz, Robert Salters, Edward Nunez, Jordan Kenny, Jose Ramos, Carlos Benitez Montoya, Noel Santelices, and Harvin Pereira with conspiring to variously commit a number of crimes, including 10 burglaries, 3 armed robberies, including a home invasion robbery, 2 carjackings, 5 vehicle thefts, and possessing illegal firearms as part of that criminal activity.
Authorities say one of the alleged suspects is a member of the Bloods gang and has already been in police custody facing attempted murder charges for an unrelated incident that occurred just weeks after the crimes outlined in this indictment.
And finally, we end in Mineola, Long Island. That's where a man was arrested after authorities say he stockpiled illegal guns and built a makeshift shooting range all in his basement. This happened just steps away from 2 schools.
A basement shooting range, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and a stockpile of weapons, all inside a house that shares a fence with an elementary school and behind Chaminade High School. Authorities say that house in Mineola belongs to 67-year-old Wenlone Zhao, who goes by Philip, a retired computer repair business owner who neighbors describe as friendly.
It's obviously shocking. I see them pretty much every day walking their dog. Kind people, easy to talk to, very affable. So it's just kind of a bizarre thing.
Investigators executed a search warrant at his home after what they call a year-long multi-agency investigation. Officials say Zhao came on their radar in January 2025 after allegedly purchasing more than 100 firearm-related parts and components from online sellers, items that were shipped directly to his home.
Analysis of this defendant's purchases led us to one conclusion. He had the parts to build handguns, and possibly dozens of them.
Law enforcement uncovered 10 firearms, several assault-style weapons, ghost gun components, more than 6,000 rounds of ammunition, and 78 high-capacity magazines, some hidden in the ceiling of his bathroom. A Glock switch was also recovered.
This tiny item right here can turn these firearms into machine guns. It makes an already deadly weapon a weapon of mass killing.
But what investigators call the most alarming discovery was in the basement, a 25-foot-long makeshift shooting range with spent rounds lodged in this piece of wood, steps away from hundreds of students and school staff. Neighbors said they never heard any shots fired, but police also recovered 6 suppressors. According to his private lawyer, Zhao has no prior criminal history, but officials say his Nassau County pistol permit was revoked after a domestic incident in 1999. So did he have a planned attack, or was he a gun enthusiast?
I think that will all come out in court as we conduct our own investigation and defend the case, but at this point, I really couldn't comment on that.
Zhao's been charged with criminal possession of a weapon, but as this investigation continues, additional charges are expected. His bail's been set at $250,000 cash or $625,000 bond or partially secured bond of $1.25 million. He's been ordered to surrender his passport, and if convicted, he faces up to 15 years behind bars.
I'm Dan Bowens, and that's this week's Crime in the City.